Hey guys, it's Miss Guy, and it is time to get started with session 5. This week we are focusing on one concept called diversity consciousness. That actually is the title of your book, so hopefully you will enjoy spending some time learning about what diversity consciousness actually means. In order to do that, I have assigned you a very small portion of Chapter 1 to complete reading this week. This will complete the reading of Chapter 1, so we've spent a good amount of time in Chapter 1, hopefully really nailing down some key topics and key terms so you can kind of understand what diversity is and get ready to move forward into our aspects of diversity in the remainder of the course. So this week we are only reading pages 24 through 28. While you are reading those pages, you will be completing the reading notes for this week. The reading notes will be just like the ones in the past. You'll click on the link in Moodle and you'll make a copy, which will deposit into your Google Drive. When you get to the notes, you'll see this is the exact same document that you are used to completing via the Cornell note-taking method. Make sure that you are putting a photo in that upper left-hand corner. Remember, I like to make things personal, so I like to see your face when I am grading and reading your responses. The first part of your reading this week dives deep into 5 specific myths about diversity, and so you will include those in your notes as you read. There is a reflection question this week, so just remember your input always goes on the right-hand side, so I've kind of left that note there for you as to where your reflection will go. As you read deeper into the chapter, once you're finished with the myths, you will come across some other aspects that talk about diversity, diversity consciousness, what it is not, and education when it comes to diversity. And then you can wrap that up with some of these summary questions here. So once you have gotten through reading the end of the chapter, we are going to complete an activity this week called an autobiographical story. When you access this document, you will make a copy. You should be becoming experts at this by now. And you will see that the title is called Visible and Hidden, My Diverse Autobiographical Story. So I think we have discovered through our readings of Chapter 1 that diversity is not just face value. It is things that are very deep. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to go through 7 specific depths of diversity, as well as do a deep dive into what can be seen and what is unseen for you when someone looks at you in terms of your diversity. So we're going to take a brainstorm here. Here's the thought, environment, and then I give you some examples. So what kind or kinds of communities have you grown up in? Maybe where you currently live. Okay, so this can be any aspect of an environment that you have been brought up in. You're going to list those out in bullet forms. And the more that you can give detail, the better. You're going to take a thought process trip through your social class background. So the social class that you grew up in, maybe the social class that you're living in now, if that's different than the one that you grew up in. Or maybe you were a product of a social class change throughout your childhood. Take a look at these particular questions, and that will help you answer this section. So the kinds of jobs that were held by the people that raised you, and the jobs that you are holding now, the level of education. Think about the neighbors, those who lived around you, and that will help you determine your social class background. When we look at social heritage, we are not only looking at our race. Remember, we're looking at our ethnic and our religious backgrounds as well. When we are looking at social and economic opportunities, you are looking at both the good and the bad here. So things that were advantages to you and things that were disadvantages to you, and how that has related to your schools, your work, and your community at large. The cultural encapsulation, this is coming straight from your book. So the ways in which your upbringing has limited your exposure to other aspects of diversity. So has your upbringing limited the exposure to other cultures and races? Or have you had the opposite of cultural encapsulation, and how has the opposite factored into your experience of other cultures and races? Then we get down to diversity consciousness. So take a deep dive here because you spent some time reading about this in chapter 1. So thinking about your family background, your experiences, and your education, and how has that influenced your understanding, your awareness of those diversity skills. Think about your sphere of influence. So who has influenced you? Whose thoughts and ideas have been put onto you? They can be positive or negative. These are the people that have a lot to do with your socialization. Before you get to the reflection, you come to a spot in the assignment where there are 2 columns. What you're going to spend some time doing here is thinking about yourself. So when someone looks at you, list all the diverse aspects that they can see when they look at you. And then I want you to think about all the diverse aspects that they cannot see by looking at you. Remember, diversity is more than just face value. This should take you quite a bit of time. This is one of those larger writing assignments, so even though it's not an essay, I should see quite a bit of content and detail here. The bullets are just guides for you. So there are full 4 bullets here, but that does not mean that you need just 4. You certainly add to that. Or you may experience a situation such as your environment. If you're still living in the community in which you've always lived, maybe you don't have 4 different communities listed in your environment section, but maybe you just have more detail. So one type of community listed with lots of detail. This should take you a good little while, and this should be part of a really deep reflection of you and your background. And then spend some time processing all of that information and answering these particular reflection questions that I have posed here. And remember, that goes in paragraph or paragraphs in this particular box under the reflection. Once you have completed that, you will submit that in Moodle, and then you will be done with the Session 5 Diversity Consciousness section. This section should give you a good wrap-up of our chapter, and I hope that you enjoyed taking a deep dive into your autobiography. Please make sure you reach out via email if you have any questions or concerns. I'm only an email away.